Cool.
Howdy, this is David Reichel with the Sierra Avalanche Center. I'm psyched to be talking with Nick Meyers, forecaster with the Mount Shasta Avalanche Center. How you doing, Nick?
Good. How are you, David?
Doing great. So we love to check in every year with all the regional forecasters. Nick in particular brings the personality and the North State charm. Before we jump into like talking about last season, any highlights from your time off you want to share?
Well, I just got back from Maine. We did a little East Coast trip and a little surfing and climbing and mountain biking, and I'd never been out there before, and I was thoroughly impressed. Yeah, it's totally different, and it was just fun to experience a little bit of something different. I think a lot of us, we do the same as we get older. We do the same type trips because we know it's going to be good and we're comfortable with it. But it was a different trip and had a blast. So that was it. But I actually, well, I don't know if we want to get into this now, but I applied for and accepted a GS9 Wilderness Program Manager position here on the Shasta Trinity in Mount Shasta. Essentially the same job, same gig that I've been doing for 20 years, but a little better pay. And it's not an 18 and 8, it's a permanent full time. So my typical layoff in the fall is no more. Dang.
I'm not sure if congratulations or condolences are appropriate with such news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an adulting accomplishment, right?
Yeah, turned 40 and put my big boy pants on, I guess.
Well, congratulations on the birthday milestone and the adulting position. It's a good thing in theory, and hopefully you can still squeeze in some awesome vacations.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. So let's talk a little bit about last winter on Shasta. It wasn't radically different than what we had here in the greater Tahoe area, but can you walk us through like the early season, fall and winter on Mount Shasta from your perspective?
Yeah, so Mount Shasta Avalanche Center, it was our 24th season of operation, and it was another dry winter. We kind of, we started out with a couple big storms, and it created a usable snowpack, to kind of get us going. We started issuing advisories, forecasts on December 1st, all the way through April 3rd. But unfortunately, there was a pretty big dry spell, and so we ran out of green ink. What was it? I was just looking here. We issued low avalanche danger for 101 days. 9 days were moderate, 10 were considerable, 1 was high, 0 extreme. So yeah, it was, we ended up actually having a lot of climbers, a lot of midwinter climbers. A lot of our forecasts sort of reflected that by just climbing information and climbing conditions and that type of thing. So yeah, go ahead.
That works almost well for you all who wear both hats, right? Like winter forecasters, spring, summer climbing rangers.
Yeah, and kind of always leave something to talk about. And we still had, folks coming and visiting the area, and lots of locals out and about. And Mount Shasta south side is a multi-use trailhead. We get snowmobilers up there, and so never a dull moment. But as far as engaging avalanches, weak layers, action-packed avalanche related stuff, there wasn't much. That's how it goes.
The Christmas storm was pretty enormous for you all, though, so that must have shut down access and everything for a few days and kind of been a bit of a classic storm, and then it's just nothing after that for a while, right?
Yep. We had a white Christmas. Everyone was psyched, and then that was, yeah. So, yep. But we were really lucky to have those early season storms. As you guys, those are our snow pack builders. That gives us our base, and without those big early season storms, we would have been crying the blues a lot louder.
So I wanted to, for a second, go down the path of what you just mentioned. That last year, I guess, was the 24th season for for the Avalanche Center
Yes.
up there.
Yes.
So this upcoming season will be your 25th. If my math is correct. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you just, you know, 25 years ago is even before my time for like hanging out on Mount Shasta. I think yours as well, actually. But what was like the early scene on Shasta from a forecasting perspective? What did that look like?
Yeah, well, it started with my mentors, Matt Hill, Eric White, Dan Towner, and Matt Hill really kind of was the, he started the Mount Shasta Avalanche Center. And I've looked back into some of the old reports, and it was literally just like bring up a Word document and start typing. And it was just kind of a narrative of what was happening over the years. There's been hills and strikes and gutters, the Avalanche Center growing, and then, setbacks, Forest Service support or not, depending upon leadership. And so it was kind of as you expected back then, just pretty rudimentary. And they issued, these discussions a couple times a week or whatever. And then it's grown into what it is today. But,
sure. And those early years, it was started from within the Forest Service, right? Like Matt was working for the Forest Service. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. So the Sierra Avalanche Center, depending on how you trace it, like, we have like, we're probably going to be celebrating an anniversary next season, like a year from now. And so I'm sort of increasingly curious about these early histories of the different Avalanche centers. And so, the first sort of stuff that you can associate with the Sierra Avalanche Center, which is really pre-Sierra Avalanche Center, but the Forest Service Avalanche advisories that happened in the Tahoe area go back to 1985 and Bob Moore here. But it's a pretty cool, early history of all the early history of all of our Avalanche centers.
Yeah, and then, for us, it definitely stemmed from the climbing. Like, that was kind of, Matt and Eric, they were climbing rangers, and they worked in the winter, and they witnessed and saw avalanches. And it, doesn't take much to, get the idea of, well, maybe we should issue some avalanche forecasts for this mountain that thousands of people come visit. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So going forward in the winter, huge lull. You mentioned the 100+ days, I think it was, of low avalanche danger, which was essentially when there was no snow for that really long period. Something similar we had something quite similar here in the Sierra Avalanche Center area, and I can't remember the number, but we had, I think, 30+ consecutive days of low, or maybe even more than that off the top of my head. It was, I think, a record for us in terms of how many consecutive days of low, because the weather was just so beautiful and boring, and thus the snow was pretty stable. Your spring, like, for us, there was basically nothing until we were almost set to close. It was really like the weekend I think we had penciled in on our calendar for closing in mid-April, and we extended because we could see a good storm was coming. And for us, it was, good storm, and then it sort of petered out after that. But further north, I know for you and into Oregon, like the storms track kind of kept going a little bit after that. April, it woke up in April.
Yeah, we got it in. It was about mid-April, and it was kind of the same thought process. We had shut down the Avalanche Center, and we were like, "Oh God, should we?" To get the ball rolling again takes actually a bit of effort. And our website continues on no matter what with climbing information. So we just made the decision to not put out an actual danger rating, but we could still talk about, avalanche concerns and what we were seeing out there on our website through the observation platform. And so that's what we did. And, we have our climbing advisory, and, you can kind of put a little bottom line statement into there. And so we felt that was sufficient. And, the danger, it subsides pretty darn quickly in the spring with that good old California sun, and the whole, main venue on the mountain is on the south side. So we didn't feel that there were going to be, we just chose not to reopen the Avalanche Center, even though we were all still here and doing our thing. But We, prior to the storm, we kind of blew it off like, it's going to melt in a couple days. It's not going to be a big deal. And we got like, I don't remember, it was feet of snow, and it was a big deal. It significantly added to our snowpack. It still doesn't stick around like a good winter snowpack does, but it helped prolong the climbing season for sure. And we were pretty stoked. April powder days are fun.
Agreed. Looking forward to this coming season. Do you have any big changes or plans for this upcoming year you want to share?
Yeah, it's a bit of a rocky road here on the Shasta Trinity, Shasta McLeod Management Unit. We, or I shouldn't say rocky, just a lot of change going on. We've had a number of folks within the recreation department retire or have left for other employment, and so we've got a good bit of change happening. I'm around still, but the Mount Shasta Avalanche Center, we're going to have almost entire new staff this winter. We hired one position through the Friends Group, and Michael Madden will be filling that position. And then we're going to fill 2 more positions this winter, temporary positions. I'll spare you the longer story, but yeah, a bunch of new folks coming into play here. And next summer, climbing ranger wise, we'll have new positions as well. So training up new staff, getting them, basically hitting the ground running come December. So this winter we should have 3 to 4 employees. The 4th employee, that'll be a new addition. We typically have 3 in the wintertime, but we might have 1 more. And then next summer we'll have all new rangers. Otherwise, our operations will be the same. We'll still start forecast December 1st through mid-April, doing all our avalanche awareness, companion rescue stuff throughout the winter, the snowball, the fundraisers, the movie nights, kind of doing what we've always done and just trying to do as best we can.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Can I ask, this is a total inside baseball Avalanche Center nerd question, and you can dodge it if you'd like, but the sort of 4th forecaster you're theoretically adding, is that because your position changed and so you're able to fill that old position that was you, or were you able to add an additional forecaster position?
So earlier this year, the Forest Service launched this national hiring collective. It was this big, huge hiring initiative. And the short of it is the ranger, our district ranger, is not confident that we can fill some of these positions under that hiring collective because there's not enough people for the number of positions. So it's sort of a just a bit of an insurance policy for us. Hire a couple temps just in case we can't fill those permanent positions with people. So that's the main reason.
Yeah, interesting. My understanding is that Avalanche centers throughout the West are, struggling a little bit more than in the past to, hire and retain folks, largely because the cost of living has gone up. Every cool mountain town in the West has had a pretty incredible transition in the last half decade or so. So it's definitely conversations we're having internally at the Sierra Avalanche Center, and I'm kind of curious to see how other Avalanche centers are handling that and addressing it. And sounds good.
Yeah, and we're a little bit unique too because of the climbing mountain aspect. So, our duties are Avalanche Center and climbing ranger, and both in the winter. And then come mid-April when the center shuts down, we roll right into climbing season. So those hires will also be rangers and work into June, July, and into the climbing season as well. So they're justified, funded, sort of that way as well.
Yeah. It is one of the kind of cool and unique things about Shasta is that you have the year-round forecaster to climbing ranger circle.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Super hardball question here. Can you share a semi high on your list backcountry skiing run zone in Shasta that's not just Avalanche Gulch, not the obvious one. I don't want to get you killed by the locals, but like, what's something you recommend for someone who sat through the or listened through this this interview to this point?
Yeah, this is thin ice. Well, I'll say this came to mind. The Mount Shasta Ski Park put in a new lift, or they are putting in a new lift as we speak, and they've got the towers up, and this lift goes up Gray Butte. Gray Butte has historically been a really great little backcountry, side country, whatever you want to call it, zone adjacent to the ski park. Gray Butte is adjacent to Mount Shasta, and there's some really fun runs on there. So that lift will get you up on the Gray Butte a little bit farther, and is going to kind of open up some of that terrain that'll be easily accessible from the top of the lift. Most people ski kind of that northwest side, but I think we'll start to see a little bit more of the east side of Gray Butte be skied. And there's some really fun terrain over there. Definitely avalanche terrain. And this is, heads up to everyone heading over there. It will be easy to get there via the lift. And so we're expecting maybe more inexperienced people to be heading over there. So avalanche knowledge will be really important. So that's kind of a cool zone. If you have a snowmobile, we call it the Siskiyou County Ski Pass. If you have a snowmobile, there's some really great terrain out east of Mount Shasta, accessed via the Pilgrim Creek Snowmobile Park. There's miles and miles of broom trails that access backcountry ski terrain. We call it the Northeast Crest. So from Mount Shasta, if you draw a line from Shasta out to Medicine Lake, there's a crest of mountains that extend out to the northeast. And there's some really fun snowmobile accessible ski lines all along that crest there. It stays cold, it gets a ton of snow. And while it's not the grandest of areas as far as vert, the snow quality is really great out there. It's cold and light and a lot of north facing terrain. It's pretty fun.
I hope you don't get in trouble. I think those were both really good answers. It will be interesting from a serious sort of Avalanche Center perspective to see how Gray Butte, the behavior out there changes, because obviously we do see so much like ease of access leading to accidents, especially when it's like from a resort where obviously you don't need to have backcountry training. So, that will certainly open up tons of great terrain to lots of people, and I'll be watching how that goes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nick, thank you once again for joining us. Looking forward to crossing paths in Shasta or down here sometime.
Yeah, thank you, David. It was great chatting, and we'll be seeing you soon, I'm sure.